The vast emptiness of space held no warning of the storm that was about to break. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Eternal Glory, High Commander Marcus of the Galactic Empire stood watching the blue-green planet on his view screen. Earth, as the natives called it, was just another world to be added to the Empire's 10,000 years of conquest. "Send the standard greeting," Marcus ordered, his silver uniform gleaming under the ship's lights. The message was simple: submit or face destruction. It had worked on thousands of worlds before. The response came faster than expected. On the main screen, a human in a blue uniform appeared. Admiral James Stone of Earth's United Defense Force looked directly at Marcus, his weathered face showing no fear. "We have received your demand for surrender," Stone said calmly. "Let me be clear, Earth will not bow. We strongly advise you to turn your ships around and leave our space. This is not a threat, but a warning meant to save lives." Marcus laughed, along with his bridge crew. These humans were primitives who had barely reached their moon. Their ships were crude, their weapons primitive. The Empire had crushed civilizations far more advanced. "Your species has been spacefaring for less than a century," Marcus replied. "The Empire has ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Submit now, and you may serve as valued subjects." Stone's expression didn't change. "You misunderstand, Commander. We're not trying to impress you with our achievements. We're warning you about our nature. Humans have spent more time fighting wars than living in peace. We've developed our technology primarily to become better at winning conflicts. Are you absolutely certain you want to make us your enemy?" Marcus ended the transmission with a wave of his hand. These humans were entertaining, but it was time to teach them their place. He ordered his fleet of 50 ships to move into attack formation. Deep inside Earth's military command center, Admiral Stone watched the Imperial ships advance. Around him, his staff waited tensely at their stations. They had prepared for this day ever since their long-range sensors first detected the Empire's expansion toward Earth space. "They're not going to listen, are they, sir?" asked his second-in-command, Captain David Miller. "No," Stone replied. "They've never faced defeat. They don't know how to recognize real danger." He pressed a button on his command chair. "All ships, execute Defense Plan Alpha. Show them what humanity can do." The Empire's attack began with a standard orbital bombardment. Their energy weapons lit up Earth's sky, only to splash harmlessly against an invisible barrier. Marcus stared in disbelief. Impossible. Their shield technology shouldn't be this advanced. Before he could adjust his strategy, Earth's response began. Hidden bases on the moon opened up, revealing hundreds of sleek warships. They were smaller than Imperial vessels, but moved with incredible speed and precision. "Sir," his sensor officer shouted, "their weapons, they're not using standard energy beams." The first volley from Earth's fleet demonstrated this perfectly. Solid metal projectiles, accelerated to near-light speed, tore through Imperial shields designed to stop energy weapons. 3 Imperial ships exploded before Marcus could even give new orders. Primitive projectile weapons. Marcus gasped. But the velocities, the targeting systems. Earth's fleet split into smaller groups, using tactics the Empire had never seen before. They attacked from multiple angles, their ships moving in ways that seemed to defy physics. Each shot found its mark with devastating accuracy. Within 20 minutes, 12 Imperial ships had been destroyed. Not a single Earth vessel had been lost. Admiral Stone watched the battle calmly. "Send the message again," he ordered. Marcus received the transmission as his fleet struggled to regroup. Stone's face appeared on his screen once more. "This was just our first line of defense," Stone said quietly. "You have 1 hour to retreat. If you choose to continue fighting, we will be forced to show you why thousands of years of human warfare have made us very, very good at winning battles. The choice is yours." For the first time in his career, Marcus felt real fear. He looked at his burning ships, his shattered formation, and made the first wise decision of the day. "All ships, retreat," he ordered. As his fleet flowed into hyperspace, Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would return with a bigger fleet, but something told him that these humans would be ready. They had tried to warn him, after all. 3 months after the first battle, the Empire returned. This time, they'd brought 1,000 ships. The massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace just beyond Mars, their weapons already charged. Fleet Admiral Peter Jackson, the Empire's most decorated commander, stood on his command bridge with absolute confidence. He had never lost a battle in his 300-year career. "These humans defeated our scouting force," he announced to his crew. "Today, we show them the true might of the Empire." His new flagship, Imperial Judgment, was 5 times larger than any human vessel. Its main weapon could crack planets. The sight of such overwhelming force had made countless civilizations surrender instantly. The humans didn't even respond to his arrival. "My lord," his communications officer called out, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the asteroid belt." Jackson frowned. The space between Mars and Jupiter had seemed empty on their long-range scans. Now thousands of small objects were moving, revealing themselves to be cleverly disguised human warships. A trap, Jackson realized, but he wasn't concerned. No matter. Begin the attack. Standard pattern. The Imperial fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Their first volley lit up space with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. That's when the humans revealed their second surprise. Every asteroid in the belt, hundreds of thousands of rocks, suddenly sprouted engines and weapons. The entire field had been converted into a massive defensive line. Mixed among them were the real warships, indistinguishable from the armed asteroids until they opened fire. "Impossible," Jackson shouted as his neat formation was shredded by attacks from every direction. The humans were using the asteroids as both weapons and shields, launching them at relativistic speeds while hiding behind others. On the bridge of Earth's command ship Defender, Admiral Stone watched the battle unfold. "Launch the drones," he ordered. Millions of small, unmanned craft swarmed out from hidden bases on Mars. Each one was barely larger than a car, but carried the same devastating weapons as their larger ships. The Imperial fleet's targeting computers couldn't keep up with so many small, fast-moving objects. "Sir," Captain Miller reported, "the Empire's shields are calibrated for our previous attack pattern." Switching to Phase 2 weapons, the human fleet changed tactics instantly. Instead of solid projectiles, they fired clouds of microscopic particles that passed right through Imperial shields. The particles found every crack and seam in the Imperial ship's armor, causing devastating damage from the inside out. Jackson watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by an enemy he had drastically underestimated. His ship's superior size had become a disadvantage. They were simply bigger targets. Their powerful weapons were useless against enemies too small and numerous to hit. "My lord," his tactical officer said, voice shaking, "we've lost contact with our entire left flank. 300 ships, just gone." The Empire's careful formation had completely broken down. Individual ship captains were trying to retreat, only to find the armed asteroids had closed in behind them, creating a killing zone. "Launch our fighters," Jackson ordered desperately. Thousands of Imperial fighter craft poured out of the larger ships. For a moment, Jackson felt hope, until the human drones transformed their attack pattern. They moved like a swarm of insects, surrounding each fighter and destroying it in seconds. In Earth's command center, Admiral Stone received a priority message. "Sir, our deep space sensors detect another Imperial fleet massing at their border. At least 5,000 ships." Stone nodded calmly. "They're learning." Slowly, he pressed his command console. "Begin Operation Hornet's Nest. Let's show them why you should never corner a human." Hidden jump drives activated on every armed asteroid. The entire belt, nearly 1,000,000 weapons platforms, prepared to make a faster-than-light jump directly to the Empire's staging area. "Send the message," Stone ordered. Jackson received the transmission as his fleet died around him. His mighty flagship was one of only 50 ships still intact. "This is your final warning." Stone's voice came through clearly. "The Empire has two choices: open diplomatic channels for peace talks, or watch as we bring the war to your home systems. You have 1 hour to decide." For the first time in its history, the Galactic Empire was forced to consider the possibility that it had made a terrible mistake. The humans hadn't just been ready for them. They had been waiting. News of the Empire's defeats spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On thousands of conquered worlds, subjugated species watched recordings of the battles with growing hope. For the first time in 10,000 years, someone had beaten the unbeatable Empire. The Imperial Council gathered in their grand chamber on the capital world. The massive room was silent as they watched the battle footage again. "2 fleets destroyed," High Counselor Rex said, his voice shaking with rage. 1,500 ships lost. And now our border worlds report growing unrest. On the distant imperial world of Theros, the local garrison was dealing with that unrest firsthand. Captain Robert Wilson of Earth's Special Operations watched through his binoculars as the native population threw off centuries of imperial rule in a matter of hours. "They're really doing it," his second-in-command whispered. "They're actually fighting back." Wilson smiled. His small team had spent just 2 weeks training the locals in resistance tactics. More importantly, they had given them something the Empire had spent millennia crushing: hope. "Send the signal," Wilson ordered. "Tell Earth the first domino has fallen." In orbit, a hidden human stealth ship received the message. Its quantum communicator sent the news instantly across the galaxy, completely undetectable by Imperial sensors. The revolution had begun. Back on the Imperial capital, the Council's meeting was interrupted by urgent reports. Planet after planet was declaring independence. Imperial garrisons found themselves surrounded by populations that had suddenly lost their fear. "How are they coordinating these attacks?" Rex demanded. "Our communications network should detect any rebel transmissions." The answer came in the form of more human ships, appearing from stealth near every rebelling world. They carried gifts: shield technology that could protect the rebels from Imperial weapons, and communication systems that the Empire couldn't intercept. Admiral Stone's voice transmitted directly into the Council chamber, bypassing all their security. "Your Empire is built on fear," he said calmly. "Fear only works until someone proves the monster can bleed. We just proved it." The Council erupted in chaos. Their perfect system of control was falling apart. Worlds that had been subjugated for thousands of years were rising up, using tactics they had learned from human advisors. On Theros, Wilson watched as the locals disabled an Imperial walker using simple tools and clever strategy. The massive war machine crashed to the ground, its crew surrendering to people they had once considered primitive. "Sir," one of his team reported, "the other training groups report similar success. 18 more worlds have requested our help." Wilson nodded. The Empire had spent millennia creating perfect weapons and defenses against the threats they understood. They had no defense against humans teaching their subjects how to think differently, how to fight smarter rather than harder. In space, the Empire's mighty fleets found themselves caught between rebellion and innovation. Human ships would appear from nowhere, strike with devastating effect, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Their stealth technology made them impossible to track. The Imperial Council watched helplessly as their reports grew worse. Their perfect order was being replaced by chaos. Their subjects were learning the most dangerous human traits: creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to fight against impossible odds. "We must negotiate," one counselor finally said, "before we lose everything." "Never," Rex shouted. "We'll gather every ship we have. We'll burn every rebellious world. We'll—" His rant was interrupted by new alarms. The quantum transmitters humans had given the rebels were reporting Imperial fleet movements instantly. Every time the Empire tried to gather its forces, the rebels were already prepared. Admiral Stone's voice came through again. "You still don't understand. We're not beating you with superior numbers or technology. We're beating you because humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. We learned to think in ways you never imagined. And now we're teaching others to do the same. The council sat in stunned silence as reports continued to arrive. 1,000 worlds in open rebellion. Imperial fleets being ambushed by tactics they had never seen before. Their perfect empire was being dismantled not by brute force, but by the spread of dangerous ideas. Humanity hadn't just brought weapons to the galaxy. They had brought revolution. The Empire finally revealed its ultimate weapon. The massive ship emerged from hyperspace near one of Earth's colony worlds. It was larger than a moon, its hull black as space itself. This was the Planet Killer, used only twice in Imperial history. Now we will show these humans true power, High Counselor Rex declared from the ship's command center. Let them watch their world burn. The Planet Killer's main weapon powered up, gathering enough energy to shatter a planet's core. Rex smiled as the beam fired, expecting to see the colony world crack apart. Instead, the beam vanished into what appeared to be a small black hole that had suddenly appeared in front of the colony. Impossible, Rex shouted. No shield could. That's not a shield, came Admiral Stone's voice over their comm system. That's our answer to your Planet Killer. The black hole began to move, controlled by technology the Empire had never imagined possible. It headed straight for the Planet Killer, its gravity well already tearing at the massive ship's hull. Full power to engines, Rex ordered. But the Planet Killer was too large, too slow to escape. The artificial black hole pulled it in piece by piece, until nothing remained but scattered atoms. In Earth's command center, Admiral Stone watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. Launch Operation Thunderstrike, he ordered. Show them what happens when they try to destroy our worlds. Across Imperial space, human ships appeared near vital military installations. Each carried a smaller version of the black hole weapon. The Empire's most powerful fortress worlds went dark one by one. Major Tom, commander of Earth's Special Weapons Division, led the assault on the Empire's largest shipyard. His squadron of 10 ships faced hundreds of Imperial defenders. Remember, he told his crew, they're still fighting the last war. We're fighting the next one. His ships released swarms of self-replicating nanites into space. The microscopic machines invaded Imperial ships through their propulsion exhaust, multiplying and consuming the ships from within. Within hours, the mighty shipyard was reduced to floating scrap. The Empire responded by activating its automated defense networks, massive rings of AI-controlled weapon platforms around their core worlds. These had protected Imperial planets for thousands of years. Earth's response came in the form of computer viruses more advanced than anything the Empire had ever seen. The defense networks turned on their own worlds, forcing the Empire to shut them down completely. In desperation, the Imperial Council ordered their remaining fleets to gather for one massive assault on Earth itself. Thousands of ships formed up near their capital, preparing to jump. Let them come, Stone told his commanders. Everything is ready. The Imperial Armada arrived in Earth's solar system, expecting to find a desperate defense. Instead, they found emptiness. Earth itself appeared abandoned. Then the sun went dark. Human scientists had built a partial Dyson sphere around the sun, a massive structure that could capture and redirect its energy. The Imperial fleet found itself trapped between waves of concentrated solar plasma, their shields useless against the raw power of a star. This is your final warning. Stone's message reached every surviving Imperial ship. Your Planet Killer is gone. Your automated defenses are disabled. Your shipyards are destroyed. Surrender, or we will be forced to demonstrate our full military capability. In the Imperial Council chamber, panic finally set in. Their greatest weapons had been turned to dust. Their most powerful defenses had been bypassed, as if they didn't exist. And still, the humans insisted they hadn't shown their full strength. What are they? Rex whispered, watching another fortress world go dark. What kind of species creates weapons like these? The answer came from the Empire's own historical records. Humans had spent their entire history fighting, advancing their technology primarily to become better at winning wars. While the Empire had grown complacent in its power, humanity had never stopped preparing for the next conflict. The Empire had started this war expecting to face primitive weapons and simple tactics. Instead, they had awakened a species that had turned warfare into an art form, whose weapons and strategies had evolved through countless conflicts. As their mighty fleet burned in solar fire, the Empire finally understood the truth. They hadn't just started a war. They had unleashed humanity. Commander Lisa Gray sat in absolute darkness aboard her stealth ship, watching Imperial vessels pass by without detecting her. Her mission was perhaps the most important of the war: psychological warfare. "Begin transmission," she ordered softly. Across Imperial space, every communication device suddenly activated. Citizens and soldiers alike found themselves watching carefully selected footage from Earth's history, not of battles or weapons, but of revolutions, of small forces defeating empires through cunning and determination. "Let them see what happens to invincible powers," Gray whispered. In the Imperial Palace, the Council watched helplessly as their information networks were overwhelmed. Thousands of years of carefully controlled propaganda disappeared, replaced by images of Earth's greatest military strategists and their victories against overwhelming odds. "Shut down the networks," Rex commanded. "We can't," his technicians replied. "Their quantum eye has complete control. It's rewriting our security faster than we can respond." The human assault wasn't just digital. Gray's stealth fleet had positioned itself near every major Imperial world. Using advanced holographic technology, they created illusions of massive human fleets appearing and disappearing at random. The Empire's military response was chaos. They couldn't tell which threats were real and which were fake. Every time they sent ships to engage a human fleet, they found nothing, only to have their undefended positions attacked by actual human forces. "Your empire is built on lies." Gray's message played across Imperial frequencies. "We're simply revealing the truth." That truth was devastating. The Empire had maintained control through carefully managed information, making each world feel isolated and powerless. Now, quantum communications let those worlds coordinate freely, sharing strategies and inspiration. In the Imperial Military Academy, cadets watched in awe as their tactical training simulations were replaced with footage of human special forces defeating larger enemies through superior strategy. The Empire's next generation of officers was learning exactly the wrong lessons, or perhaps the right ones. Gray's ship silently approached the Imperial capital itself. Her mission wasn't to attack. It was to make them think they could be attacked at any moment. "Launch the probes," she ordered. Thousands of tiny devices scattered across the capital world. Each one could create convincing holograms of human soldiers appearing inside secure facilities, of stealth ships hovering over government buildings. The Imperial leadership would never know what was real and what wasn't. The psychological impact was immense. Imperial officials jumped at shadows. Military commanders hesitated to move their ships, fearing ambush from enemies they couldn't detect. The Empire's mighty war machine was paralyzed by uncertainty. In Earth's command center, Admiral Stone received Gray's reports with satisfaction. "The greatest victory," he told his staff, "is the one where your enemy defeats themselves." The Empire's response grew increasingly desperate. They imposed martial law on their core worlds, which only increased the panic. They tried to jam communications, but the quantum network was untouchable. They attempted to launch counterattacks, but couldn't trust their own sensor data. Gray watched through her ship's sensors as the Imperial capital descended into chaos. The mighty Empire, which had ruled through fear for 10,000 years, was now experiencing that fear themselves. "Send the final message," Stone ordered. Every screen in Imperial space displayed the same image. A simple map showing human stealth ships positioned near every major Imperial world. The message was clear. They could strike anywhere, at any time. How long have they been there? Rex demanded, staring at the ships supposedly surrounding his capital. How did they get past our defenses? The truth was even more devastating. Many of the ships on the map were holograms. The Empire had no way to know which threats were real and which were deceptions. Their own paranoia would do more damage than any actual attack. In the darkness of her stealth ship, Commander Gray allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare, yes, but they had also mastered the art of breaking an enemy's will to fight. The Empire was learning that some of the most powerful weapons weren't weapons at all. They were fear, uncertainty, and the terrible knowledge that everything you believed about your own power might be wrong. The beginning of the end started quietly. On the Empire's most heavily defended supply planet, tiny machines smaller than dust began multiplying. These were humanity's nanite weapons, designed to consume specific materials and ignore others. Within hours, every weapon and piece of military equipment on the planet crumbled to dust, while civilian infrastructure remained untouched. Impossible, High Counselor Rex shouted, watching the reports. Check the other armory worlds. But it was already too late. The nanites had spread through the Empire's supply network, carried by their own ships. Humanity had turned the Empire's perfect logistics system against itself. Admiral Stone watched from Earth's command center as the Empire's military capability literally dissolved. Begin Phase 2, he ordered. The Empire's response was predictable. They tried to move their remaining fleets through hyperspace to protect their core worlds. That's when they discovered humanity's second surprise. Ships started disappearing during hyperspace jumps. Not destroyed, simply vanishing. No debris, no distress calls. The Empire's fastest form of travel had become a lethal gamble. The truth was terrifying. Humans had learned to create artificial gravity wells inside hyperspace itself. Imperial ships were being pulled off course into artificial black holes between the stars. Your hyperspace routes belong to us now. Stone's message reached the Imperial Council. Every jump your ships make is a roll of the dice. In orbit around the Imperial capital, the Empire's last great fleet gathered for a final defense. Thousands of ships formed a sphere around the planet, their weapons pointed outward. They were looking in the wrong direction. Deep within the planet's core, special human ships had spent months positioning themselves, using technology that let them pass through solid matter. They carried humanity's most devastating weapon yet, controlled fusion bombs that could reshape the planetary crust. All ships, execute Protocol Earthquake, Stone commanded. The surface of the Imperial capital buckled as controlled explosions deep underground shifted entire continents. The planet's defensive shields, designed to stop attacks from space, were useless against an attack from within. In the council chamber, Rex watched his perfect world tear itself apart. How? He demanded. How are they always one step ahead? The answer came from his own intelligence chiefs. Humans had developed their technology through constant warfare and competition. Every weapon had countermeasures. Every strategy had multiple backup plans. The Empire had spent 10,000 years perfecting a single way of war. Humanity had spent its history learning to fight in any way necessary to win. As the capital burned, humanity revealed their final weapon: true artificial intelligence. Not the simple automated systems the Empire used, but fully conscious AI that could outthink any organic strategist. The AI predicted every Imperial response, countered every desperate plan. It could hack any Imperial system, control any automated defense. The Empire's remaining ships found themselves locked in their own docking bays, their computers turned against them. Your choice is simple. Stone's message reached the Council one last time. Surrender, or we will be forced to demonstrate weapons that make these look primitive. Rex laughed madly. Primitive. They've destroyed our fleets, consumed our weapons, shattered our worlds. What could be worse? The answer appeared in the sky above the capital. A human ship, larger than any they'd shown before, emerged from stealth. Its hull was made of strange, shifting metal that seemed to defy physics. That, Stone explained, is a ship controlled by our most advanced AI, built by self-replicating machines, using technology we developed but considered too dangerous to use. So far, you've only faced our conventional weapons. The Empire's last defenders watched in horror as the ship began to change shape, demonstrating technology centuries beyond anything they'd shown before. This wasn't just a weapon. It was proof that humanity had been holding back. In the council chamber, the truth finally sank in. They hadn't lost a war. They had walked into a trap generations in the making. Every weapon humanity had shown, every tactic they'd used, was precisely calculated to break the Empire's will to fight. The Empire had started this war believing they were invincible. Humanity had ended it by showing them just how wrong they were. The war ended not with a grand battle, but with a simple message. The Imperial Council, watching their capital burn and their fleets crumble, sent a single transmission to Earth: "We surrender." Admiral Stone stood before the gathered representatives of Earth and its allies in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly. The massive chamber, built from the ruins of the Imperial Palace, held delegates from 10,000 formerly enslaved worlds. The Empire ruled through fear for 10,000 years. Stone addressed the assembly. "Today, we choose a different path." The terms of surrender were unique in galactic history. The Empire would not be destroyed. It would be transformed. Every world would get the right to choose its own government. The Imperial Council would face justice for their crimes, but their people would not be punished for their leaders' actions. In the prison where the Imperial Council awaited trial, Rex watched the proceedings on a simple view screen. "I still don't understand," he told his guards. "You could have destroyed us completely. Why show mercy?" The answer came from David Miller, now promoted to Admiral after Stone's retirement. "Because humans learned the hardest lessons of war, how to win the peace that follows." Across the galaxy, the reconstruction began. Human technology, no longer needed for war, was turned to healing. The same nanites that had consumed weapons now rebuilt ruined cities. The quantum networks that had coordinated attacks now connected worlds in trade and cultural exchange. The Imperial Military Academy became the Galactic Defense Academy. Former Imperial officers found themselves learning alongside their former enemies, studying not just how to fight wars, but how to prevent them. In orbit around Earth, the massive ship that had terrified the Empire was transformed into a space station dedicated to scientific research. Its AI now coordinated relief efforts and helped solve logistical challenges across thousands of worlds. The true test of power, Stone had told the assembly, isn't how many worlds you can conquer, but how many you can help prosper. Some former imperial worlds chose complete independence. Others formed new alliances. A few even kept their imperial traditions, but with elected leaders and constitutional limits on power. Earth supported them all equally. The former empire's advanced technology, combined with human innovation, led to a golden age of exploration and discovery. The same stealth ships that had won the war now led peaceful expeditions into unknown space. In the Galactic Assembly, representatives debated and voted on interstellar law. The system wasn't perfect. Humans had learned from their own history that democracy never was. But it was fair, and it was free. 1 year after the surrender, Admiral Miller stood at the same podium where Stone had announced the victory. Before him, the assembly hall was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. "We didn't win this war because we had better weapons," he told them. "We won because we had a better vision for the future. The Empire fought to dominate. We fought to liberate." In the debris field that had once been the Empire's mighty planet killer, human and alien workers built something new. A memorial to everyone who had died in the war, and a promise that such weapons would never be needed again. The humans had surprised everyone one final time. Having proved they were the greatest warriors in the galaxy, they chose to become its greatest peacekeepers instead. 5 years after the war, the former imperial capital was unrecognizable. Where stark military parades had once marched, children from 100 species played in parks built by the same nanites that had won the war. The quantum network that had coordinated the resistance now carried art, music, and ideas across the stars. In his retirement home on Earth, Admiral Stone watched the sun set on a peaceful galaxy. On his desk sat a piece of the Imperial throne, transformed by nanites into a simple paperweight. A message from Miller appeared on his screen. The last Imperial holdout surrendered today. It's really over. Stone smiled. Humanity had taught the galaxy how to fight. Now they would teach it something far more important: how to live in peace. But they kept their weapons, just in case. After all, there was a lot of galaxy out there, and humans had learned to always be prepared. Some said that was the greatest victory of all. Not that humanity had defeated the Empire, but that they had built something better in its place. The end.